Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well. This is a different kind of video. I mostly wanted to make this video just as a bit of a check-in during this difficult time. I wanted to let you know how I'm doing, and I also wanted to find out how you guys are doing. I did say about a month ago when this whole COVID-19 situation started that I would continue to make videos during this time on this channel. That hasn't worked out exactly as planned for a number of reasons. One is that, quite frankly, I looked on social media, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, and I saw that the engagement is pretty low right now, and that's understandable because everyone is distracted and a lot of people are just trying to figure out how to navigate this situation. So I don't really want to just be cranking out content when people don't really have the opportunity to make the most of it anyway. The other thing is that I also have been distracted by this situation, and my wildlife photography activities are basically at zero right now. I had to cancel all upcoming travel, all income related to wildlife photography, print sales, workshops, teaching, everything is all at zero right now. There's not even any opportunity to get out and actually photograph wildlife, at least where I am, which is a bit of a problem because I actually have some gear right now that I need to evaluate, and I've had it for a number of weeks, and I received it just before the lockdown started, and I had hoped to be done with it in a couple of weeks and then send it back, but I wasn't able to do that. And fortunately, I am able to keep it for a little bit longer, so I hope to be able to get out at some point soon and use it in the field. I have been using it in the studio, but I'd like to use it in the field and photograph some animals with it, and then I would like to make a video about that. In the meantime, I also have been doing some live streaming. Some of you may know about that. Not on this channel, but my wife has a channel, and we're very fortunate that we're able to perform music together. And so we have been doing a bit of a live stream at home, and we just started a weekly show and just a little half-hour thing on Saturday afternoons to play a bit of music. And so we've been doing some live streaming, and that has been an interesting experience. I've been using all my camera gear for that. But I've been learning a little bit about live streaming, so that has also been a bit of a distraction. Now, I will say that I have been working on some other wildlife photography content that I do think you guys will be really interested in, and it's I won't be making it available on this platform. It'll be somewhere else, but I will be making it available entirely for free. So I'll let you know when I have that, and hopefully it's not too far out. What I thought I would do for this video is just share with you a memory from one of my trips from last year. And you might be doing the same thing that I've been doing, which is going back and looking at some of the recent experiences and recounting some of the recent experiences that you've had when you've been photographing wildlife. I wanted to tell you about this trip that I took to northern Manitoba last year in the fall. Mostly I was looking for bears there, and I didn't actually see a lot of bears. I do have some nice images, and I do have some nice experiences from that. And I think this is one of those trips where the experience and the sightings, although they weren't numerous, were very special, even though the images may not have been, even though I might not have got a large number of images out of it, or any even really truly spectacular images, but it was still a great experience. This is an area that is a subarctic region, and so the landscape there is very different. It's a tundra landscape, and especially in the fall when I was there, the fall foliage was just beautiful, and I got the opportunity to see it from the air when I was traveling up there, flying up there and flying back. And also I was in a float plane a number of times, hopping around to a few different locations, and so got to see that landscape from the air. And then also on the ground when I was moving around, sometimes from a boat, sometimes in an ATV, and sometimes on foot hiking around. In fact, there was a fair bit of hiking, and one of the the features of the landscape, which is mostly very flat, it's really a barren landscape, is that, and I might also mention it's quite quite a challenge for most wildlife to survive out there, because there's just not a lot there's not a lot of animals out there, and so even foxes, for example, I think I did maybe see one red fox, and really, I don't know how they survive actually out there, because there's not a lot for them to find. So when I was out there, one of the features of the landscape is these eskers, which are these ridges of layers of sand and gravel that were formed by channels of water underneath glaciers many years ago. That whole area would have been covered with glaciers, and so these eskers are like these ridges that sometimes go on for miles, and in fact sometimes even you'll be walking along an esker and you'll come to a body of water, a lake, and there are many lakes up there also, I should mention, and the esker will actually go underwater in the lake and then come out on the other side. But when you're walking along these eskers, it's a great opportunity, firstly, to be able to potentially spot wildlife that's far away because you're up high. And also, a lot of the wildlife use the eskers as highways, so there's a lot of tracks up there. And then also, sometimes in the sides of the eskers, you'll find dens. Now that all sounds pretty promising with so many tracks and possible dens in the sides of the eskers, but the reality is it's very difficult to find wildlife out there. And if you do see it, it's very difficult to get even close to get any shots. I did see one wolverine when I was there, no chance of getting anywhere near it. I saw one moose that I got a simple shot of, nothing spectacular. I couldn't get anywhere near that moose either. I did see also a white wolf. So I spent most of my time in a blind, just a pop-up blind that you take into the forest and you just deploy it, and then you can get inside the blind. And when I was in there waiting for some black bears that I'll tell you about in a second, I did see a white wolf pop its head out of a tree and look at the blind, and then pulled back and never saw it again. I saw lots of tracks, and I did spend a lot of time trying to find those wolves again, but couldn't find them. I was very fortunate that there were a couple of black bears in the area, a couple of male black bears, which was good and bad, because if there were any females with cubs there, they weren't going to come anywhere near that area. But I was fortunate in that these two male bears, and one in particular, were quite curious, and so they would come around to where the blind was, and on one occasion I think one of them came almost 2 meters, certainly 3 meters to the blind, because they were very curious about the contents of the blind. They knew that I was in there and they could smell me, but they couldn't see, and one of them came up and it was actually peering right, trying to see inside the blind. I accidentally scared one of them away once. The bear came up to the blind and I was taking photographs, and I accidentally made a bit of a rustling noise against the fabric of the blind and startled the bear, and it ran away, and fortunately came back shortly thereafter. When you're in a blind like that, you are quite constrained. You can't really move around much. Fortunately, with this blind, I was able to shoot out all four sides, but you're quite constrained. You can't really move anywhere, and also in those kinds of situations, the wildlife's very nervous, so you have to be very quiet, and it helps to have a silent shutter in those situations. So I got some different kinds of shots, and although I've photographed black bears in other situations, because I was in this environment there where the landscape is so different and interesting, that's really what made it special. And so you have this, on the ground, you have this caribou moss, which is like a white, creamy, spongy ground covering, and then you've got the black bears next to that caribou moss. So you've got black and almost white right next to it. So that can be an exposure challenge, especially in bright light. But then also there was the fall foliage, so there's the yellows and the greens, and so it's a very different kind of background, and that was one of the things that made it both interesting and challenging. So this was a fond memory that I have from last year. I'd love to get back there at some point. And even though I didn't get a lot of really great shots, even though I didn't get a lot of shots from there, I still had a really great time, and it was a really wonderful experience. And of course, when you don't have a lot of sightings, it makes those ones that you do have all the more special. I'd love to hear from you guys. Perhaps you might want to share a memory of a wildlife photography experience that you had, or perhaps you're able to even get out now and do a little bit of photography somewhere, or perhaps it's not even wildlife. Perhaps you're able to get out and do some other kinds of photography right now, or even inside. Let me know if you're able to share any of your experiences, or just to let me know how you're doing. I'd love to know how you're coping with this situation. I will be putting out some other videos on this channel when I can, and when I think it does make sense. I don't just want to be cranking out content. I want to give you guys stuff that can be helpful to you. So thanks for watching. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.